I hope you are getting my screen and as well as my voice. All of you. Narsimha, Swati, are you getting?
Getting so.
Okay. So, last class we have started about PowerShell, right? It is the unscripting language for Windows. So basically, as you know already, we have two types of PowerShells, right? So one is PowerShell, normal PowerShell, that is nothing but it is integrated with some other application or services, and one more thing is PowerShell ISC, nothing but integrated scripting environment, right? So and then we discussed about some basic not comments exactly, basic functions or basic programs we discussed, right? So if you want to write something in PowerShell prompt, or if you want to print something, right? So just we require some write host, or if you want to read something from PowerShell prompt, right? So we are having some read host, or simply otherwise if you want to take something from PowerShell prompt, so you can go with the read host, or if you want to print something you can go with the write host, right? Basically, so then we discussed about PowerShell operators, so like arithmetic operators, comparison operators, assignment operators, logical operators, right? These things in a way you know these operators. And then we discussed about some conditional statements, like if else, uh, these things were discussed, right? Basically, so if you observe this if else conditions index, so nothing, so just if something, if some condition is matched, right? So then it is trying to execute this piece of code. If not, it is going to try to execute some else part, basically. Okay, so here read host, nothing but just we are taking some number from the uh, this PowerShell prompt, basically. Then we are writing write host, nothing but here basically if you observe the intention of this program is basically, so just whether the what are the number in which you are providing from your PowerShell prompt, whether it is an even or odd, just we are cross checking here. That is only one thing what we are what we are doing from this respective piece of code, right? So then we discussed about if else condition syntax, nothing but in between if and else we are having a one more condition statement called as an else if, basically, right? So this is one thing. If some condition is matched, so just trying to execute this piece of code. So then if let us assume if this one is not matched, right? So then it is trying to execute directly else if condition, then it is trying to execute this piece of code, basically. So then if these two things, whether this if and if condition, else if these both condition is not matched, then it is trying to execute directly else part, basically. Okay, and then we have written some piece of code. All right, basically here nothing but read host, same thing, just we are taking A's from the PowerShell prompt. So we are checking different conditions. So if age is less than 18, you can take some cool drink. If else if age is less than, or we can say that in between 18 to 45, right? So you can take water. So else better to drink milk. I mean, if age is greater than 45, right? So then we are we are mentioning some message as a better to drink milk. So these things we discussed here basically in our last class. We will continue further. So first of all, try to open PowerShell ISC. So any doubts till now? Any of you? No doubts. So age is equal to a read host. What is your age? If this is the same program, I think we already written. Let me copy paste it. So just I'm copy pasting here, same program. So if you're trying to execute, so what is your age? Maybe I've given some 18. So better to drink milk. So this program we discussed already, right? In our previous class. So here I given some, what will be the output to any of you? Instead of number, I'm giving some name. Okay, maybe some A, B, C, D, something like this. Then what will be the output? Any of you? Are we going to get output or maybe some error, something like that?
Better to drink milk.
Better to drink milk. Why?
I think it's not given like letter. To say that.
Okay, if I click and enter, better to drink milk. So is this the correct output? Correct output? I mean, first of all, is this correct input? Forget about output.
No sure.
No, because basically, actually age, basically it is in a numeric format, right? But
But
even though irrespective of this format, I mean, irrespective of this numeric or even if you're giving some string as well, it is taken directly, right? If you observe. But basically, if you observe this major intention of this program is, so basically it need to take only numeric. If you're giving some age, right, it can be maybe some 60 or 70, something like that. So based upon that, just is going to cross check all the condition and the necessary output it need to be displayed, but it is not doing the same way. Even though if you are giving irrespective of numeric format, maybe some abcd, nothing but is a string format, right? So string format also it is taking, but basically it should not take, but it's taking, right? So this is a problem within this, not a problem, this is the problem what we are facing from this respective program. So now in order to overcome this, so we can overcome this by using some concept called as a data types. Most of you, I think you are already aware. So let us, what is the problem? If we execute the above program, basically it need to take numeric as an input, but it is taking string format as well. Basically, if we observe the above program, it need to take only numeric format, but it is not taking, right? In order to overcome this, we are moving for a concept called as data types. Okay, so we're having some char, So if you want to define some char data type, so just you need to define a single character with a single quotes or maybe some double quotes string. So we need to define some group of characters in double quotes, basically maybe some Shiva. So then we're having some int data type. We're having maybe some numeric format. Float, it should be decimal, right? Basically 1.25 or 1.50, something like that. And boolean, so just it is nothing but true or false. So just if you observe this above program, just we need to modify some piece of code. If you modify that a particular piece of code, so it will work as we expected, basically. Okay, so now what is the change we need to do is basically go to this program, copy this one, so here first of all if you observe what is our age, nothing but we are taking some numeric format, right? So and basically if you observe this variable will store only numeric, right? It is clear. So now here whatever the things which are taken as an input from PowerShell prompt, right? So for suppose let us assume if you are taking some string, right? So you need to convert this variable or whatever the final output which are getting from this is, you need to convert to the respective data type. Here at this point of time, here it is taking what we call, it is taking as a numeric, right? Basically, so then it should be convert to int. Here you need to define int, so like this. So here intention is, here we are taking some what we call as a number, so that thing we are converting, we are storing initially into this respective age variable, and we are converting to the int data type. Okay, so now if you're giving some maybe some string format, right? Maybe some abcd, so it was unable to convert to int, right? So simply it is throwing some error now, means it is not a, I mean whatever the input which you are providing, right? So it is not a valid, simply we can remember that. So just you can modify it here. So go to this piece of code, so here provide int. Okay, just try to execute now. Maybe I'm giving some abcd. See here, now we are getting some error. Cannot convert value abcd to just dot int 32. Nothing but basically it is an int data type. Okay, so input string was not in a correct format. Something it is displaying something like that. Okay, at line 1. Where are we getting here? At line 1. This is the thing. Okay, so now give us some 80. Here, where are we doing that? So just a small changes. Here we need to add int data type. Okay, so any doubts, any of you? So we will discuss one more program basically, that is nothing but while loop, a small program. So here while is nothing but here basically if you observe this piece of code, it is trying to execute only one time, right? So now if you want to execute this piece of code into n number of times or whatever the amount of times which you require, so we can overcome this by using some while loop. So here $I is equal to 0 while $I less than maybe some 5. I mean, if you observe here, I is 0, right? 0 less than 5, the condition is true. So until this condition is true, so this while loop, within this while loop, whatever the whatever the piece of code in which you are going to mention, that piece of code is trying to execute, basically. So here, I want to take some age. Same program, just a little bit modification. Read host. What is your age? So here I need to convert to int. If $h hyphen less than right host, else if $h greater than 18 less than 45. Can take water. So better to drink. So $I equal to, so here you know already this piece of code, right? So this piece of code just mentioning inside of while loop. So initially I value is 0, so 0 less than 5, the condition is true. So now it is trying to execute this piece of code, right? And after that 0 plus 1, 1. Now I value is 1, right? So 1 less than 5, yes, condition is true. So it is trying to execute this piece of code. So already I is already having 1, right? 1 plus 1, 2. So now I value is 2. So 2 less than 5, yes. So 2 plus 1, 3, right? Now I value is 3. 3 less than 5, still true, right? Now 3 plus 1, 4. 4 less than 5, condition is true. So now again 4 plus 1, 5. Now I value is 5. 5 less than 5, false, right? So now this while loop is going to be terminated. So till this while loop condition is true, till that many times this piece of code is trying to execute here basically. Okay. Else if is not recognized. So here you can take water and take cool drink. That to drink milk. That's it is terminated, right? So till whatever the condition you have mentioned, till this condition is failed, then piece of code is going to be terminated. Okay. Any doubts, any of you? Or this piece of code, or maybe some flow of execution? Any doubts? So now we'll going to discuss about Terraform. Okay, so first of all, it is an IaaC, nothing but infrastructure as a code. So as you know, Azure we're having some ARM templates. Alright, AWS we're having some cloud formation. So if you observe this packer is from HashiCorp, right? So same way Terraform is also from HashiCorp. So now advantages of Terraform. So first thing it is an easy to use or easy to understand. It runs in multiple platforms and it is having a feature called as a try run, means directly showing the error. right? Or easily we can understand the code. Okay, so basically here we don't have that much of code. So it is a as you know in ARM templates, right? So basically we're having a piece of code in the form of JSON. So that type of codelet is available basically. So if you're getting some error in between this JSON file, right? So directly it will navigate. So it is going to show where we're getting that specific error or what is that specific line. All these things we can easily understand by using this dry run, which is an inbuilt thing which is already available in the Terraform software itself. They have designed the software in that respective form. Basically, what I mean to say. Okay. So disadvantages of Terraform. So it will take time to get code for new services and lack of support. So if you aware, basically this Terraform is a software which is provided by some HashiCorp, right? And it is I mean they did not provide so many of new features, so just they are starting building up this respective software basically. And last some 6 to 1 months, I mean sorry, 1 year to 6 months only we are listening about this respective keyword as a Terraform basically. Okay, just we can say that they are initial phase of development. So if you observe any softwares or even your best example is Windows operating system, right? So they're already having some product as a Windows, but on that respective Windows, gradually they're improving the new features or new enhancements on the existing product basically. Okay, so if you observe, we're having some Windows 7, so Windows 8. After that, there came up some Windows 10, which is drastically changed in their Windows operating system itself. Basically, now they're having some Windows level. So, but here operating system is common, but they have given the new features, maybe some performance improvements, or maybe some security point of view, or maybe some UI look and feel point of view. So many things they're going to be happen. Same way, currently Terraform is in initial development only, basically. Okay, so but let us assume by using Terraform, we can maybe what we can say that we can create some resource group which will network these all these things. These are the basic services. What I mean to say. So if you want to create some more services, maybe some storage accounts by using some Terraform. So maybe that piece of code is not available, so we are unable to create, right? So that is nothing but what I mean to say that there is a disadvantage of Terraform. Just I'm providing some example. Okay, so if you want to do it basically, right? So first of all, this code itself need to provide either from Azure or HashiCorp. Any of these respective organizations need to provide. Then only we're able to do it. Okay. So currently they are not providing any support as of now. Basically, but if you are purchasing maybe some license point of view, currently it is an you can download the software and you can utilize based upon your requirement. But in company's point of view, so if you're going with some Terraform software, first of all, we need to take some license from HashiCorp. So then there is a chance of they're going to provide some support if you're getting some errors or if you require some piece of code. If you want to develop some new service on the existing Terraform software, these things is going to be happen once if you take some license. Okay, and one more thing is if you go to so type HashiCorp. See, This investment, these are the products. Terraform, Packer we already discussed, right? And security, they're providing some more products here basically, and applications, they are developing some applications as well. And if you go for pricing somewhere, see $70 per user per month. Okay, so business definitely is going to be very definitely. Okay, means if company is purchasing something services from the HashiCorp, so definitely it is going to be vary. Okay, but basic things, basic, so just if you want to know what is Terraform or how can we utilize this software, basic things is always free. Not only HashiCorp, most of the companies, so they're going to provide you as a free. So just you can get some knowledge from the respective software. That is the thing what we are doing currently. Okay, this is some information uh, related to Terraform basically. Okay, so now here our intention is by using this Terraform, nothing but by using this third party software, right? We are trying to create some services inside of Azure Cloud account. Okay, so how can we do that basically? So before creating this resource group, is all these things, go to Google. So just here I am typing some create VM using Terraform. Okay, so just go to these documents. So configure a Linux VM, nothing but a virtual machine with infrastructure in Azure using Terraform. So what are the things we can create by using this piece of code basically, right? We can create a virtual network, so you know already. So we can create some subnet, so we can create some public IP address, network security group, storage account, virtual machine, these all these things. So this is a piece of code. So implement the Terraform code. Okay, so create a directory. In our point of view, just we can create some folder. Okay, so and create a file named. So what is the name here? Main.tf. So if you observe this Azure templates or maybe some storage accounts, so here we have observed that JSON. If you observe previous classes, right? So here if you observe the JSON means the particular file in the this piece of code, this complete piece of code in the form of a JSON, what we can say that. Okay, but now they have given some main.tf, means if you are using this piece of code, right, or if you want to modify this piece of code, so compulsory we need to save this file with name as with extension as a .tf, or even you can use main.tf, something like that. Okay, so here they have given HashiCorp configuration language. So it is a new language, not a new language which is common for all softwares basically. So this is a language which is related to only for HashiCorp organization or HashiCorp company, what we can say that. Okay, in order to get some more. See here, it is a JSON. means this piece of code is available in the form of a JSON format, but here it is a HashiCorp configuration language, which is related to HashiCorp basically. Okay, so just you can copy this piece of code, go to Visual Studio, so go to file, new file, paste it here. Okay, so go to here now. See here, uh, here this Azure RM, nothing but where we are getting these things, nothing but HashiCorp basically. Current version is the 2.0. They are at, as I mentioned, it is their initial version basically. Okay, providers. So we will discuss here, and then see here they are mentioning some comments. Create a resource group if it does not exist. Okay, so here whatever the resource group name which are going to mention here, so here uh, basically my resource group something, right? But you can mention maybe some Azure test, Azure vendor, something like that. So just first of all it is going to cross check whether the same resource group is available within your Azure cloud account or not. Okay, if it is exist, it will not create. If not, it will create here basically. Okay, so then I think a virtual network. So you can mention your virtual network name. You can mention some address space. So basically if you observe virtual network and sub network, we are mentioning some two IP addresses, right? This is the same thing we are mentioning here. So whatever the UI, I mean whatever the graphical user interface which you have taken or which you have practiced already, right? Same thing we are mentioning, but in the form of some piece of code format, something like that. Okay, so then you can create some subnet. So if you want, you can create some public IP address here, basically this piece of code. Network security group or network security rules, right? So these things you can mention. So let us assume if it is a Linux, right? Basically it requires some SSH. So name is SSH. You can give some priority, or even you can provide some that 20 to 20 is a default port, right? These all these things. Basically this piece of code is related to creating some Linux machine, right? So that is the reason these all these things they have already configured. So mostly we no need to change this piece of code. But if you want to change some resource group name or maybe some subnet name, these things you can change it basically. Otherwise, so it will create my vnet, something like that. Okay, so it is configurable. You can modify that respective names, what I mean to say. Okay, so then network interface. So what is our resource group name? So it is going to take some wherever the resource group is created, right? IP configuration. So basically this if you observe, whenever if you're trying to create some Windows virtual machine or Linux virtual machine, basically this public IP address or private IP address, these are automatically it is creating basically, right? So we are nowhere we are configuring. So otherwise we can simply say that dynamically we're getting dynamically some IP address is allocating both IP address, whether it's a private or public IP. So the reason they have mentioned some dynamic. Okay, so here basically this network security group, and even this from here onwards, public IPs, network security group, network interface. So these things you no need to change. It is a input basically. Okay. See here. So create a virtual machine, right? What is our name of your virtual machine, which location? So resource group name anyway it is going to take from Azure resource group dot my Terraform group dot name. So Azure resource group. Where is this Azure resource group here? See here. This is Azure resource group. In that Azure resource group, after that we're having some my Terraform group, right? So like that, it is going to take it basically. Okay. Network interface IDs. These them are the same thing. Azure network interface dot my Terraform dot ID size, right? Basically we are choosing some size, how much amount of RAM or how many number of hard disks, these things we are choosing, right? There's nothing but a size here. OS disks, publisher, I mean if you're going with some Ubuntu, publisher is Ubuntu, right? Sorry, publisher is canonical, offer is Ubuntu server basically. Okay, version we are mentioning. Computer name, you can provide some name. Admin user, you can provide some username. Here also admin user. So basically if you observe in Linux, whenever if you're trying to create some Linux machine, so we are creating in two ways. One is by using a password, and one more thing is by using some SSH mechanism or SSH public key basically, right? So here they are not going with a password, so they are going with some public key SSH mechanism. What I mean to say, so here you need to, first of all we need to generate some SSH public key here. Okay, so how can we generate some SSH public key? That is by using putty generator. So by using putty generator, you need to generate some SSH key or some SSH public key basically, right? So then you can copy that piece of code basically, and you can paste it here basically. Okay, I mean you can paste it this public key value, what I mean to say. Okay, so this is the information related to Terraform, some piece of code basically. So this provides us. So what this provides us, we'll discuss. So till now, any doubt, any of you?
If there are no resources, he will come from Asian like this.
Any doubts? So you got some idea basically.
So we use ARM templates also for this creation of resource groups and virtual machines, right?
So here we can create this resource group or maybe some rich network subnets or maybe some VMs, storage accounts in multiple ways. Okay, so basically for understanding, first of all you need to get some knowledge, right? Some information related to Azure cloud. So first initially we have gone with some UI part, I mean by using some graphical user interface, how to create all these things. But if you go with some industry standards, or if you're going to work on a real-time environment, mostly they will not use graphical user interface. So either they can use by using you can use by using some bash shell, or maybe it's by using some, they can use some external software, maybe some Packer, Terraform, or maybe some ARM templates. By using these ways they're trying to create these services within the Azure cloud account. Okay,
Are they going to
hello.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
So here we did not discuss about, we did not create any services inside of Azure Cloud Account. Just here, I'm trying to explain about uh, whatever the piece of code which is available inside of this .tf file. TF is the Terraform, basically. Code is somewhat lengthy, but here you need to get only information is, so just if you observe, this is a maybe some programming point of view. Maybe if you observe C or C++ Java, so if you observe, this is a just as per our convention, just I'm saying. So if it is a method, right, each method they're calling as a service, one service basically. Okay, so maybe some resource group. So this is nothing but, let us assume this is a method which is related to some resource group, right? And this is for virtual network. Like that, they're going to mention some different methods on top of this complete code. Okay, but actually they're calling as a this piece of code as an hash programming language, right? So hash configuration language. So just our convenience, so just I mentioned this one as a method. Okay, but it is not a method basically. So here we're having some provider, right? So basically, as I mentioned you, these services, what are the services or what are the service names which are going to mention inside of this tf file, these all services it is trying to create inside of Azure Cloud Account, right? Basically it is trying to create some inside of Azure Cloud Account. So till now, whatever the piece of code which I have explained you, I did not discuss about anywhere this communication between this piece of code and this Azure cloud. If you observe this ARM templates, right? So it is taking, we're getting some pop-up and we are providing some authentication. Then is going to train to authenticate. Then is going to trying to create some storage account instead of Azure cloud account. But here in this piece of code, nowhere I have mentioned some usernames or passwords or maybe some subscription ID or tenant ID which is related to Azure cloud. So these things I did not mention in anywhere in this piece of code till now, right? So these things we need to gather. First of all, these things we need to gather from the Azure cloud account. Maybe some client ID or maybe some subscription ID, tenant ID, right? So these things you can gather from the Azure cloud account. So that things we can place it inside of provider stack, so that this Terraform software is going to recognize. So whatever the let us assume I have given some subscription ID, right? So first of all, it is going to check it whether the subscription ID is valid or not. Okay, and even we did not download even some Terraform software as well, so we need to download the Terraform software as well. So first of all, what this going to do, what these things is going to place is, first Terraform trying to execute this piece of code. Okay, Terraform trying to execute this piece of code first of all. So first it is go to provider tags. So here whatever the things which are mentioned inside of provider tags, whether it is a subscription ID or tenant ID or maybe something, some IDs, right? So it is going to cross check it whether these IDs is really related to the Azure cloud point of view or not. So then it is trying to check this Azure cloud authentication. If everything is fine, so then it is trying to create whatever the services which I mentioned or whatever the service names which I mentioned here. This all the service name it is trying to create inside of Azure cloud account. Okay, so much of process is there, so that thing we will discuss by tomorrow basically. Okay, that's all for today. And one more thing is, so